Yeah, that guy.
This guy, okay. Alright, we got some more unspent skill points, Warren. What do you think we should upgrade?
Oh gosh. You know, I actually took part in a Let's Play like this recently, and what we discovered was, oh my god, this game is hard. I don't know what we were thinking. Pick some weapon skill.
Alright, we're gonna go pistols because I know they're quite a lot at the start.
Ah, it's my favorite weapon.
We are gonna have to skip through some of the dialogue and cutscenes just to kind of get to the actual gameplay itself, but here we are on Liberty Island. It's the very first location, and you guys actually built this pretty much to scale.
Well, first of all, notice the crate. You know, there was a competition shortly after the game shipped to see which game actually showed you a crate soonest, and we won. Yeah, lots of crate. Yeah, actually, this was probably the first point where the team came to hate me because I insisted on everything in the game being built based on blueprints or photographs. Everything in the game was based on something real. And poor Harvey Smith, who had to build Liberty Island, I got privileged to the Statue of Liberty and said, as long as you build the outside realistic, you can do whatever you want inside. That was kind of our rule, to make people believe they're actually there in the real world, and then have freedom. Harvey was not a happy guy.
Okay guys, we got a choice between 3 weapons now. We can take a sniper rifle, a GEP gun, or a mini crossbow.
Crossbow!
Wow. You know, it's funny, when I was working on this, the folks at IDOS, the publisher, said, why don't you just make a shooter? How many people are actually going to sneak through the game? And I said, well, you know, probably 70% are going to be shooting their way through the game. And they said, well, why are you wasting any time on stealth? Just do a shooter. And clearly, I was wrong in insisting that we do stealth, listening to all of you folks out here.
Well, the thing is, you always try to start with stealth, I think, and then in the first area, everything falls apart and you end up killing everyone. That's how my playthroughs always go.
Now, you know, there's no way I'm putting my hands on a keyboard at this point. I have not played this game since 2001, just as though every human in this room knows it better than I do at this point.
I feel I need to clarify what a GEP gun is for people who don't know. That's a GEP gun.
You're killing me. No, you know, actually it's interesting. No one's ever asked me what my preferred play style is, and I'm a stealth guy as long as I can keep that up. I love sneaking around. Wow, the Aussies are a really good crowd.
Alright, Dan, how long can you go without killing someone?
Not very long.
Actually, you know, the interesting thing, nice shooting text. Using the pistol, there was a point on the game where half the team wanted to cut the pistol because it was so weak and so useless. And I love the pistol because it forces you to think. I mean, the pistol, the weakest weapon in the game, combined with explosive barrels and all that stuff, you can do some really fun things with it, and I love it. So we kept it, for better or worse.
I'm having kind of a problem here. It's not letting me put my weapon away, and I'm not entirely sure why that is. I think, oops.
I had nothing to do with this.
Is it I?
Use right click. Download the patch.
There we go.
Non-lethal, go, go, go.
Alright, so this is an electric prod, and it does exactly what it sounds like. Which we'll show you here.
Oh.
It was 2000, okay?
That was the biggest bounce in all the clubs that year.
You know, the other thing is, when we first started playtesting this, something interesting happened. I call it choice paralysis. I would watch players, you know, real gamers, hardcore gamers, get to the first point where they realized they could actually make a choice in a game, and they would just stop, push the keyboard away. Wait, what do I do? It was kind of eye-opening because I guess games, at least up to that point, had trained people not to think. You know? And so they didn't know what to do. Eventually, most of them got it. but there was that early moment that was pretty.
Okay, yeah, sorry, I am having a bug because I need to throw my weapon away before I can switch, which I've never seen in this game. Oh dear. He's running away.
You made it 37 seconds.
37 seconds, there we go. They don't know.
Yeah, route changing is easy.
Yeah,
it's really
that's probably a good idea.
I actually participated in a Let's Play back in the States recently, and I was there with Chris Norton, who was my lead programmer and assistant director, and Sheldon McCody, who was the lead writer. And we were all just looking at this going, what were we thinking? This game is so hard.
Yeah, this is actually bugging out on me, James. I don't know what's...
Well, we can just talk.
We can just talk. Alright, so what I'm going to do is take us up to the objective so that we can then get through to UNATCO. Sorry, Paul. So you mentioned you wanted to make a real-world role-playing game, but the real world is kind of mundane if it's going to be realistic. So how did you guys kind of approach making something realistic but mundane, but also engaging and exciting?
Well, we set the game in 2052. that was kind of how we did it. It really dawned on us early on that the real world, not only is it not the greatest setting for a game, but we can't simulate everything that you would want to simulate. We wanted players to be able to apply real-world logic to problems, right? And if there's a phone on a desk, people are going to want to use that phone the way a phone works. If there's a computer on the desk, they're going to expect it to work the way a computer does. If there's a bottle on the desk, they're going to expect to be able to knock it over and drink from it. And we just couldn't simulate everything that we needed to simulate to convince you you were there. So we decided to unask a lot of questions by setting it in the future. And then, just making a game where every conspiracy theory people believe to be true is true kind of buys you a lot of excitement. So the conspiracy stuff, it was all over the place. I mean, in 1997, when I started working on this, I started thinking about it in 1994. That's how long ago it was. But in 97, when we started working on it, it was 3 years before the millennium, and everybody expected the world to come to an end, and the rapture was coming, and Y2K was going to destroy the world, and terrorism was rearing its ugly head, and you could watch the trend lines happen, right? And
just on that note, I'd like to kind of take a look at this skyline. You can tell this is made in 2000 because that's an amazing JPEG.
Wow, I didn't know that I was going to get abused.
So in the interest of time, we would usually have to walk down through to UNATCO again, but we are going to do our little no-clip cheat.
Well, actually, the interesting thing is the Twin Towers are missing, right? And
Yeah.
a lot of people commented on that and thought we were prescient, but in fact, it was just an art limitation that we had to do that. But don't tell anybody I said that. The other funny thing, we originally had a White House mission that I still wish we kept, but we were working on that, and the Secret Service actually visited the Ion Storm office, and it had nothing to do with our White House mission, by the way. But we kind of let it get out there with the Secret Service, so we had to cut the White House mission. Don't tell anybody I said that. Hi, everybody on Twitch.
So do you remember, what was the first section you designed? Did you start at the beginning of the game, or was there a different point that you started at?
No, we actually started with the White House.
Okay.
I really wanted to go to the White House and let players explore real spaces in a way that they couldn't explore them, and do things in real world spaces that they couldn't do in the real world. And so it's kind of interesting. What I did was I got 3 different maps of the White House, and I blew them up so they were the same scale and put them on top of each other, on a light table. And there are actually some interesting differences. I think I discovered 2 secret rooms in the White House. Because there
That's
are
why the
just
Secret
subtle
Service was visiting you, because
Oh,
you discovered the
yes,
secret
that
rooms.
was it. Yeah.
So you got a bit of a story behind this keypad here.
Oh yeah. Well, the code there is 0451, right? And does anybody know what the significance of that is?
Fahrenheit 451.
Okay, there you go. Most people say it must be a reference to Ray Bradbury's Fahrenheit 451. And in fact, it's not just System Shock. The first time that code appeared, it was the way to get out of the first room in System Shock, the first System Shock. But in fact, it was just the key code to get into the Looking Glass office. And so it ended up in System Shock and then the Deus Ex, and it was in System Shock 2 and Bioshock, and it's been in a bunch of games. All the folks who worked at Looking Glass have to put 0451 or some variation of it. Oh yes, and the S-Pens. Love those.
Gotta hide that level transition.
Yes, that's exactly what it was. It was really a sad day when we had to start putting those in.
So the interesting thing is we've just shot a lot of terrorists on the Statue of Liberty, and now we're going back to work. And it's this kind of strange, repetitive thing where you go to your office, you talk to your boss, you get your equipment, and then you go out again. And it's this space that's kind of structured like an actual office. How important is that to sort of creating a sense of, I guess, purpose in the game, or a sense of realism?
Well, we wanted people to believe they were there, and we wanted to start. I mean, what is it? Alfred Hitchcock, always started his movies in a space that was pretty mundane, and only over time does the strangeness of the world make itself known. Standard movie stuff. When I was working on Disney Epic Mickey. I talked to folks at Pixar, and they said the same thing. It started out in a world that seems normal, and then have it become progressively less normal over time. And I think we succeeded at that at Deus Ex.
Because eventually you go back through here, and if you play it like me, you end up killing everyone.
Oh my goodness. Well,
I wasn't good at the game. That's
I used to be.
Welcome to UNAPCO HQ.
Okay, so that's the secretary. We're going to go in and speak to our boss.
There you go.
He's going to maybe chew us out or commend us, I'm not sure.
He's an interesting fellow.
Yeah.
Yeah, originally he was supposed to be kind of a stuffed shirt bureaucrat, but he wasn't even a major character when we first started. We actually created, 200 NPCs with no idea what the story was going to be. We were just creating characters all over the place and figure out something to do with them. So we ended up cutting most of them, and the ones that survived, they all changed radically. It's funny. I'm teaching now at the University of Texas, and all of my students are into something called design lock. It's like, what the heck is that? I mean, I have never locked a design. I keep making changes throughout production. By the way, do as I say, not as I do. Don't do that. But it's kind of the way I work. Oh yes, the thing everybody remembers, it's the most important thing about Deus Ex. You can go into the women's bathroom, and the world notices it. I mean, it's kind of a silly point, but it's an important point.
Oh, I stepped on the robot.
The cleaning bots, love the cleaning bots.
Well, the first time I was told to play Deus Ex, I was told an anecdote about somebody going into the women's toilets, and then they got a call later in the game saying, hey, people have been talking, this is not okay, you can't do this. And that's how people sell this game.
Well, it's an important point. It's kind of a joke, but it really isn't just a joke. One of the things we really wanted to do was make a game where the world noticed what you did and responded to it. At the time, very few games, I mean maybe no games actually did that. We were really trying hard to make you believe you were in a world and immerse you in that world. And if you could go and jump on people's heads and not have them notice, it's kind of goofy, right?
It's also great how the cigarettes do chest damage. I remember once I finished a mission and thought JC will celebrate now with a cigarette, and it killed him.
Yeah.
Straight away.
Everything is based on reality. What can I say? As crazy as it sounds, and as crazy as a lot of the conspiracy theories are, everything is true. Oh, see, General Carter. I
He's quite an interesting character because he's one of the only people who actually judges you. And I know you always mentioned that you shouldn't judge the player for what they do.
Well, actually, that's not true. Lots of characters judge you. They just judge you differently. The idea was that if you go, I mean, you can kill everything that moves in Deus Ex, and you can not kill almost everything that moves in Deus Ex. And some people will commend you for killing. You know, terrorists deserve it. And other people will say there must have been a better way. There must have been a way that wouldn't force you to kill everybody. So you're going to get praised for different things by different people. So you have to decide who you want to piss off.
So we're going to go back and see our boss again and head out to the next mission. And I think he's got something to say about our little transgression earlier.
Nice mustache.
Nice mustache.
The graphics just give you the chills.
There's a point where you only need enough to kind of create a representation of space rather than, you know, just filling it with detail.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of wish we had better graphics back then.
I've always thought Deus Ex has really gorgeous reflective surfaces. Every time you find a reflective surface, I think it looks great. And a lot of games still don't get that right today.
Well, on the mirrors, I mean, we had mirrors where you could actually see your character in the first person game. The other interesting thing, I mean, what's interesting to me, the lips are actually synced. We used a phonemic, lip sync system, which actually shaped the lips appropriately based on what you were saying, which we did mostly because we knew we were going to translate it into every language on the planet, and we didn't have to re-sync the lips. It just worked automatically. One of the big frustrations for me, though, was the IDOS localization manager promised me a Latin version of Deus Ex. And she never did it for me. I'm still upset about that. I want a Latin version of Deus Ex.
There's still time.
There's still time. I'm amazed anybody cares about a 15-year-old game at this point. So I don't think anybody's going to be.
You've got a whole room full of people.
I am pretty blown away, by the way.
You know, art endures. So you were on the phone to J. Anthony Frank a moment ago, the voice actor who played J.C. Denton. Do you have any memories of working with him? He's actually based in Melbourne at the moment.
Well, he did an amazing job, I have to say that. I think literally everyone on the team hated me for one reason or another. And Jay hated me because I made him speak in a monotone. I didn't want him expressing any emotion because the whole point was it's not actually J.C. Denton in the game, it's you. It's not about a 64 pixel tall squidgy little guy. It's not a puppet that you're controlling, it's you. And I never wanted you to be drawn out of the experience because you were feeling something that the character wasn't, or the character was feeling something that you weren't. If JC got mad or expressed some intense emotion and you were kind of chilling with a cigarette or something, that would just drag you right out of the game. And so we wanted you in the game at all times and never judge your player. We didn't want to assume we knew what the player was feeling.
So we're going to jump ahead to a section in Hong Kong. And it's interesting because Deus Ex isn't just a game about putting you in a sandbox and putting you against enemies and asking you to kind of overcome them. You also explore non-hostile spaces, kind of like living city areas where your objective is to kind of perform detective work or sort of find people and speak to them in a kind of more sedate and more laid-back, I guess, fashion.
Well, there are about 1,000 things to say about that. When I first started thinking about the game in 1994, it was called Troubleshooter, and you were going to play Jake Shooter, who was an ex. Yeah, okay. Abuse is love. Abuse is love. Abuse is love. Okay. Anyway, you were going to play a private detective, an ex-CIA guy who gets all the jobs that are too tough for the CIA. And so there is a detective aspect to this that I didn't want to lose. But Hong Kong, it may be my favorite part of the game, actually. It's a lot of people's favorite part of the game. And I'm convinced I know why. It's partly what you were saying, that it's a pretty fully realized city that you can go explore, and it's not necessarily as violent as some of the other places. But it was built and designed by a guy named Steve Powers. He was a designer I worked with for, I think it was 19 years. And he's magic. It's like, I just want to rub his belly like he's Buddha or something, you know? Every game we worked on together, if you ask people what's their favorite part, they'll tell you it was a part that Steve did.
This is a serious game about serious real-world issues.
Anyway, no, Steve built this, and nobody. You can stop that anytime. I'm just going to keep talking. I'm going to pretend that there's nothing happening on the screen. No, he's the least technical designer among the least technical designers I've worked with, and yet he's magic. I don't know how he does it. He's now working at Arcane, so if you like Dishonored, yeah, you probably like some of Steve's work again.
So do you guys want to go and meet the Australians?
Might turn the audio up a bit for this.
Hey man, where you from? We're from Australia.
Let's just wait for Russ.
What's your name?
JC, is this a good club?
Oh, totally. And it's a Rodero place? They get everything real cheap. Look, can we ask a big favor?
Sure.
My friend and I. It's so silly. We left our credit cards at the hotel. Think you could get us in?
How much do you need?
Only 20 each. We get in for 20.
Yes? No?
Sure.
Right, you like to dance then? Let's go.
You're so bad.
Did we do anything right?
We should stop to clarify that this game is a masterpiece and we both love it.
Why, it really shows.
Thanks for getting me in.
So let me explain some of the structure of the game. No, seriously, one of the things that I always try to do is, my games are structured in a little bit different way than a lot of other people's games. You know, there's the string of pearls, that's one way of looking at games where it's basically on rails. There's the open sandbox world, that is kind of the opposite approach. And what I try to
Dance
do
partner for you?
is talk
100 credits.
the Lucky Money Club. What I try to do is create
Have a good time.
a string of sandboxes.
What is
So
your name?
I know the entry point of every mission and the exit point of every mission, and then I literally don't care what you do to get from that entry
I
point
feel
to the
silly.
exit point. But in that way, I get to own the narrative arc. I am Aristotle. I get to own why things are important and what's cool and the significance of what you're doing. But every player gets to own the minute to minute. Like you can throw flower pots if that's what you want to do. You can jump on Maggie Chow's head 100 times apparently and kill her. I didn't know that actually, but I found that out earlier today.
So we explore a lot of kind of dark and dingy underground places that are kind of shadowy and like evoke that conspiracy theory feeling, right? Like the game takes place entirely at night.
Yes, it does.
Is there a particular reason beyond sort of supporting the conspiracy theory kind of overarching plot?
Well, we were all Blade Runner fans. I think that shows, and certainly
What is your
cyberpunk
name?
fiction. You know, I've talked about this before. My first dungeon master when I was playing D&D was Bruce Sterling, who,
Have another
with
drink?
Bill Gibson, was one of the sort of founders of
As you were
cyberpunk. So
saying?
we had a lot of inspirations.
Women back
Those
home,
games are
they aren't like your
those, books and movies.
I do very much
dark,
wish to meet her.
and dingy and dirty, and that's kind of what we wanted to be as well. We wanted to be
You are very
a serious,
handsome.
near future science fiction story, emulating our
I like your
inspirations.
tattoo.
We had to go
Really?
all at night.
The
I
claws
actually
and
do
dragon.
find it amusing, and even
Touching
that
your
amusing
breast.
that you
I
play a
just thought it
character
would
who
be
wears
sexy.
sunglasses at night and a trench coat even when it's 120 degrees outside.
Excuse me, sir. This room is off limits to club patrons. I suggest you leave.
Guess I stumbled into the main office.
What have you?
So I realize we haven't actually used the Gep gun yet, so I should probably do that now.
The mighty Gep gun.
These guys are surprisingly okay with this.
You know, I told my wife earlier this was going to be the night of my humiliation, but I had no idea.
All right, we're going to skip ahead to one of the other levels, and it's completely different again. We're going to go to the Duclair Chateau, and it's interesting because it's a level that is not only a kind of non-combat area in the same way that the city areas are, but it's almost like devoid of NPCs entirely. It's a kind of storytelling that is completely environmental, and it's something we're seeing a lot more now in sort of standalone games like Gone Home and that sort of thing. So tell us about how this level actually came to be, because it's so distinct and it happens so sort of like towards the end as well.
Well, it was this was another Harvey Smith level. Harvey was the lead designer and just a wonderful, wonderful designer. Who also works at Arcade now, which you like design, lots of music. You know, what we tried to do, not just here, but everywhere, we wanted to use every narrative tool available in games when it was appropriate. So we had dialogue, we had environmental storytelling, we had semi-cutscenes, I guess.